Here with Torrey Smith at the Aspen Institute Project Place Summit. And Torrey, I know with your foundation, Level 82, it's all about giving back to the next generation of youth sports. But I just want to start with this. You were a great football player. Everyone knows that, watched your career, two-time Super Bowl champion. But you had other passions besides football, correct? What sports did you like to play growing up?
Depending on the season. You know, if it was in the winter, I had a basketball. If it was in the spring, I had a baseball, which was actually my favorite sport growing up for the longest. So to me, I was always active, you know, a lot different than it seems like a lot of kids are these days. They kind of want to be inside, but I was always outside. My folks had to try to beg for me to come on in, and I think that was a major part of my childhood.
What was your favorite part about playing baseball? I got to know, as being a baseball guy.
I loved the challenge of hitting, but I could pitch, I could play in the outfield, I could really play every position really, but first base, and I could play it, but I just wasn't very flexible. So I thought it was I always have fun, you know, just competing, man. I love the mental aspect of it, having to dig yourself out of a hole if you're struggling on the mound or you know just making the play.
Yeah, no, well, I played first base actually. My flexibility is not that bad. So, hey, we could complete each other on the field here. But I guess it kind of lines into it because, look, I know you dealt with a lot of expectations, pressures. For me, I grew up a Ripken. So in Baltimore here, I think you can understand with that. So with kids nowadays, they have their own pressures. For you, though, what is one thing you took away in youth sports that when you went to college, you went to professional football that really kind of resonated with you all the way through?
I mean, everything from doesn't matter if it's youth ball or professional. Control what you can control. You know, the earlier you learn to master that, it'll save you. Because I remember so many times as a child and even as a pro where I'm sitting there thinking, over analyzing things like, man, just control what you can control. You know, don't worry about the results. Like they're gonna be what they're gonna be. Worry about the next play. You know, and learning to master that isn't just a sports skill; it's a life skill as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and you probably did this if this is how you speak. And I had my issues with it. I wish I could say, hey, you know what, you can control what you can control, but you get mad, you get frustrated. That's the reality. For you though, you are entwined with this area, being from the DMV. You went to the University of Maryland, played for the Ravens, and then the expectation, Ravens can't draft a wide receiver. I mean, did you ever at any point in that time think, I got to do more, or was it always, hey, I'm just going to be Torrey Smith, and that is the best that I can be, and that's all I want to be?
Man, that's what led to the worst mini camp in the history of football. I mean, I came in during a lockout, so for those that don't remember, there was all these nice rookies that you're watching these highlights of. They get to learn the playbook. Didn't have any of that. I come in camp, and coach is like, hey, you have 5 weeks to be ready to play the Steelers. I'm like, dude, I don't even know the plays. I don't even know where to start. And so I kind of placed this expectation on myself to be who I was right away because I was so close to Maryland and people had already watched me. And I'm like, no one ever actually told me that. That was all me, like planning in my head that I had to be that same guy right away. And honestly, I struggled with it. So by the end of camp, I was fine, but it was definitely a rough learning moment for me. Like, hey, if you're not right mentally, there's no way you can perform well on the field. And I was able to learn that early, and that it always brought me back to balance whenever there was a time where I may have been struggling. But, you know, I ended up playing well and having a solid career. But even if you're playing well, like even the greats, you're gonna have times where there's lows and plenty of times where there's highs, but it's about finding that balance and being somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, and look, well, that's a whirlwind. I can't compare to being a guy in the NFL. Hey, get ready for Pittsburgh and this rivalry in 5 weeks as a rookie. But that's the insight that I don't think people understand. And you're human. Yeah, you got talent, but then there's that whole other side of trying to figure everything out, the next level, the pressures, the expectations, the whole nine of it. I guess then I want to ask you real quickly. Then it's with how do I want to phrase this? Today, especially for kids, it's hard to not want to look ahead. And for everything, it's wanting to move forward. If there's one advice you can have for the younger athletes, what would it be as far as we know, control what you can control? But is it fair to say, even at the pro level, you played better when you were enjoying what you were doing? And I think that sometimes the kids get away with that. Would you agree at the younger age they're thinking about, I don't want to fail, and I also maybe I want to go and get a scholarship. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think in social media it makes it worse. You know, I see it with our kids at level 82. We have some guys that have 40 scholarship offers, going to USC, right? Going to wherever they want in the country. Notre Dame, we have a guy going to Oregon, Alabama, you name it. But also we have some guys who have zero scholarship offers. But they're playing on the same team as these guys, and it's like, Sometimes you have this thing in your mind like, hey, I'm supposed to be here right now. But it's like, man, your process is your process, right? We mentioned control what you can control, but your process is your process. And what's next for you, right? You can't will something and force things to happen, right? All you can do is control your effort, your attitude, and how you approach it. And so to me, it's simply understanding like, hey, what's for you is for you, right? Just because you work hard, just because you're disciplined, just because you do all these things right, it's also possible that it may not work exactly how you want it to. And that's okay, right? It's about continuing to press forward and understanding that you're going to be better off in the end than you would have if you went the other way.
Yeah, you got to put your head down and grind. And you do that, you're going to have success. And actually, it's cool now. People compare to like, hey, you want to try to be like Torrey. And actually, I think we interviewed Eric DeCosta, and he talked about that Tez Walker reminds Tez reminds him of you in some ways. And I know that for me, I think that's just really cool because I thought, besides you're a great player, but the fact that I thought you handled yourself so well, and I'm hoping for Tez in this case for the Ravens, they're getting the same thing, and I think they will. Can I ask you a fun question? I got to get you out of here, okay? It's controversial. If you're going to go to a game, and you know Stuggies, you get a crab mac and cheese dog by any chance? So it's good, right? I don't consider that a condiment. If you're going to the ballpark, hot dog, relish, mustard. Torrey Smith, what are we getting on our dog?
On the hot dog, I'm gonna get ketchup. You can hold the relish. You can throw that all the way away. The mustard, you can keep that over on the side too. Keep it plain with the ketchup.
You know what? I was going to say maybe we can talk more, but we might run out of time on that answer. But, Torrey, I appreciate you. Thank you for everything. Enjoy the rest of the summit, and we'll talk soon.
Hey, appreciate you having me.